This is the fourth take, man. I'm tired of saying I love the way COP smells like, even though it's true. God damn. Smells so good.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's me, Squirrel Man, here with my fellow host, Eddie. And obviously we have Freddy in the house. Say something, Freddy.
What's up, man? 4 takes, just like my ex.
And without further ado, we're going to kick it for the continuation of the last podcast. Eddie, what do you got to say?
Not much, man. Not much.
Fuck you mean not much?
Don't fucking be looking at me like that.
Ask the questions.
You just asked the question.
Okay, I'll ask the first question. Freddie, you are a devout religious man. Would you say that's correct?
Wait. Let me fix that. A handsome man.
What's up?
Oh wait, no, wrong question. Cut it out.
I am a handsome religious person.
Would you say?
Yeah, for sure. Can't describe myself any more than that.
Well, if you were to describe your faith and if you were to describe your faith and what led you to this point, you don't have to be too specific, but we know that you are a follower of God, right?
Yeah.
And how would you describe it? How would you describe your journey thus far?
Born Catholic, atheist throughout some time, and best way I can describe it is when life throws hardballs at you. I mean, you're gonna have to find a way to make it easier on you. So, my faith is what pretty much restored me back to got me back on my feet. I'm still going hard.
Fat ass eating sunflower seeds.
So, faith helped you get out of dark times.
Yep.
And with that in mind,
What kind of dark times are you talking about? If that's okay.
All kinds of dark times, man.
Like your eyes were shut?
Yeah, man. I'm like, they disconnected the light to my house and all that type of stuff.
so you went through some true struggles.
Yeah, I went through some struggles. Shit, man.
Sorry, I was happening.
Try closing your mouth there, Steve.
A sunflower just fell from my mouth and ended up Squirman's legs.
It's all right, man. Okay.
Comedic big boy.
So, I just have a few questions, right? Because, as we all know, I'm an atheist, and I used to be very religious when I was younger, when I was a kid. Grew up Catholic, and then my parents, they each had their own belief system. My mother's Christian currently, and my father is a Catholic. With that in mind, I had every reason to follow in either or's footsteps, which I did. For the longest, we were Catholic, and then I decided to just be umbrella Christianity, like not necessarily strictly, practicing Catholicism 100%, nor Christianity 100%, because as we all know, this is my opinion only, Christians overdo it a little bit with the church, spending a little bit too much time in church, or their ideologies are very extreme.
I mean, just that statement itself is a little too broad because you're referring to Christians, and a lot of
denominations of Christianity exist.
Millions of them.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is my opinion and my opinion only, but my goddamn fucking Christians really be doing the most out here, and sometimes it's counterintuitive and hypocritical to the cause. However, what I have to ask is, what would you say is one of your most fundamental reasons for believing in God? Because you went from Catholic to atheist to your current denomination, which is
it's Christian.
Yeah.
I'm Christian.
Don't talk bad about me.
Yeah.
So, what is your big reason for believing in God?
How more or less how I fell into this faith.
Yes.
So like I said, I experienced some dark stuff going on in my family, the form of the occult, and the best case scenario to go against this so-called occult and dark stuff is to go through God, and sure enough, it counteracted this dark stuff that was going on around.
So you're pretty much saying that through your faith and belief in this God, you were able to fight physically opposing forces that were of dark nature.
Yeah, both spiritual and physically. Yeah.
Okay. And would you say that it should be perfectly normal for anyone else to hear this and turn to your faith based off of this explanation alone?
I wouldn't encourage everyone to do so, because everyone has their own time. Like, I'm not forcing. I don't think anyone should forcefully find faith. Everyone needs to find faith. Like, if they want to, they'll find it in their own time, and I'm sure they will at one point in their life.
Got it. So, does your belief system, do you ever find it under scrutiny, or do you find it conflicting with any other beliefs or practices? In other words, has your beliefs ever
Contradicted others?
Yes.
Yes, it has.
And can you give an example of like where your faith has essentially contradicted something you found to be true?
Catholicism, the worship of saints, worship of idols. That is clearly stating, if you do your research in the Bible, you shouldn't pray to anyone other than God.
Okay. So that's the one example that, first comes to mind. And when you say that they're praying and that you shouldn't worship other gods is what the Bible is, trying to teach you not to do because it's sinful. What is the basis behind not praying to any other figures besides God and God alone?
Because we're all created equal. We're all equal parts. We all have the ability to be equal in faith. Therefore, others push themselves further than others in faith. But if we all want to get to a specific point, we all can.
Okay, so playing devil's advocate, right? These saints were at some point in their lives human, like us. They were equal to us.
They are human.
They're dead now, right?
Yeah.
Well, whatever they are equal to you and me. Therefore, we shouldn't be praying or worshiping or idolizing or holding them to a level above our own.
No.
The only thing we should do that to, from your point of view and other religious people's point of view, is God.
But if you ask me if it works, yeah, I'll tell you if it works.
What works?
It does work. Worshipping stuff aside from God, yes, it works. However, it's not stuff that you're supposed to be worshiping.
Could you necessarily show or demonstrate any evidence that worshiping these saints or any other entity has had effectiveness or that it's actually able to be proven?
I cannot. I can tell you like how to do it and stuff like that, but I wouldn't go out of my way and demonstrate these things myself, because I have seen the very negative aspects of those things.
Right. Right. So with this in mind, would you say then that it is reasonable to believe that the God that humanity, the Christian God, is it reasonable to believe that that is the God that exists, if there is a God?
Yes.
How come?
All God is the same. The Christian God, the Jewish God, all God is the same.
Well, the issue there is that it might be the same.
The only difference is the religion that people follow.
Yes, like the rules and regulations and whatnot.
Yes, regulations.
So then is it actually reasonable to believe that, because they believe that it's an entirely different being. For example, the God of Islam versus the gods of Hinduism, there are stark differences, because you got multiple gods or deities, and you have one true God according to Christianity. So is it reasonable to believe the agenda? Not the agenda. The issue I have is, okay, let me, and I'm an atheist, keep in mind. Let's say that there is a God. Does that mean that every other God is the wrong God? Every other idea or depiction or belief system in whatever gods they choose to subscribe to, are they wrong?
Not necessarily wrong, but they just, everyone fell on a different path, fell under different scriptures and stuff like that. Wrong? Not really. I mean, they got some of it right, but not entirely right. I mean, I don't think everyone is perfect overall.
I 100% agree with your point that not everybody can get it right. It's just through sheer circumstance. Unfortunately, some people were born in the wrong parts of the world.
Exactly. So you got places like in Mexico right now. It's very popular. All this stuff of the brujeria and stuff like that. That's all they know. They grow up into like that whole brujeria, the witchcraft type of stuff, and they're born into it, and that's all they know.
The spirit of death.
Yes, all that stuff down there.
Got it.
All that good stuff.
The one of the inconsistencies I have is that God being and I would love to be, someone to change my mind, but one of the big reasons I don't believe in a God is because this being, this entity, has the power. He engineered the way in which the universe works today. Everything that, again, me being atheist, I'm just putting myself through a religious point of view. Religious people believe that he engineered everything's existence as we know it today. The problem with this is he also engineered things that contradict his ideology. So, for example, he not only created the universe, the planets, etc., he also created humanity, the animal kingdoms, and if you subscribe to it, evolution. He engineered evolution as well of animals, right? Kinds is how young Earth creationists will refer to it. Not this whole from one single cell we all, evolved. No, they believe instead that God put, every kind on Earth as you see it today, and it changed minorly, but it didn't change drastically like how science claims it to have changed. Well, when he was engineering creation, he also engineered people like myself, atheists that at one point did believe but no longer believe, and as far as I'm concerned, I might not believe again. He engineers people that die atheists because, he's all powerful and all loving. What is your opinion on that? That because would you agree that God created people with the ability to go atheist?
Yeah, everyone has free will, of course, and there's a lot of factors. Not just God, ourselves or fellow human beings have factors on each other, and He gives us the free will whether we want to follow Him or not. Therefore, people live their whole lives atheists, die atheists, and according to religion, according to scriptures, just because you die, that's going to be the end of it. I mean, there's more to come after this life.
Right.
So, if you die an atheist, in my own personal beliefs, it's not the end.
Of course not. There is, in religious scripture, there is an afterlife. There's actually purgatory, which is the phase before you reach your indefinite, your ultimate ending, whatever.
Think of it in a scientific point of view. You have all the different kinds of energies and stuff like that. Spirits and energies are the same thing. They correlate. So I believe the more advanced in the science we're going to get, the more we're going to be able to understand religion as well.
Right. Well, that may be true. However, I just think it's very counterintuitive to knowing that God is almighty and all powerful, all loving, and all knowing. He is omnipotent. He's everywhere. He's everything that ever can or will be. So there's a famous saying that God's inside of all of us. Well, I just find it weird that, like I said, He engineered. If He was all loving, I don't think He would have engineered myself and other atheists to be atheists. And, should I die tomorrow of a heart attack, I'm unfortunately most likely doomed to eternal damnation and suffering because...
Unfortunately, He's not here micromanaging us. Yes, you can ask Him for guidance and He'll give you guidance, but if you're not going to ask Him, He's not going to guide you.
Well, the problem is that I would definitely love to have reason to believe in God, but the reasons I would need in order to believe in God is I'd need, some sort of evidence, good evidence, some sort of logical understanding of how, like I said, he engineered everything. So if he was all loving and all powerful, I seriously doubt that he wouldn't have just created a world where we're already all in heaven, embracing his grace and feeling all great.
How would you get into heaven? How do you know you're worthy of getting into heaven if you're not going to be put to the test?
Because God doesn't necessarily need to put me to the test, because he made me
What
as
we're
I am.
living in today is the test. Our lives are the test.
They very well be, and
That's why we have multiple factors like contradicting our consciences, being having a spiritual or non-spiritual. This is the test.
I didn't study for this test.
one of the big issues, like I
And
said,
there's
is
a book with all the cheat sheet and all the answers, but no one seems to follow that.
yeah, but some of these books have some very barbaric and outdated ideas and practices. And some of these tests are actually in the Bible, like what God did to Abraham with his kid, where God put him to the test by saying, if I command this man to kill his son, will he go through with it? And at the last second, he actually didn't need to kill his son because God...
This is why you got to read like the most you can, learn as much as you can, ask as much as you can, because you're referring to something that took place way, way above. This is the Old Testament, like way back then. Total different type of God, different type of traditions and practices that took place in there. And then you have the New Testament where you have Jesus Christ came in, and there's different practices, and you have a lot more modern.
Is this to say that...
the same way science progresses, religion progresses as well.
So is that to say that everything reported in the Old Testament is to be disregarded?
Not disregarded, however, you do need it needs to be studied. It does need to be studied.
Well, based on the way, I read and interpreted the story of Abraham and his son, would you say that, it doesn't get any more plain as day as that God commanded this man to show his loyalty to God by following his orders without questioning or doubting?
Yes.
He was to smite his son at the top of a mountain.
Yes.
Literally,
that's what they used to do back then in the Old Testament.
So
they would sacrifice the firstborn. Hence the Lamb of God.
At the post of the house,
yeah.
to bring blessings and glory to the family.
Yeah.
However, how would we classify this as a loving God if this is what he's demanding of the people do in his name?
He is a forgiving God.
Well,
He's a forgiving God. He is a merciful God. Loving, he will love those who want to be loved by him. However, those who ignore him, those who deny them, will not give mercy to them.
But the question I have is, where's the loving part for the ones that actually did carry out the act, killing your own kid, in the name of what could possibly be a fallacy, something non-existent? Where's the love in having to sacrifice your own blood, your own son? Like, how is that
Test of faith?
a test of faith?
Yeah, that's the best way I can tell you, man.
Like, trust me, bro, like, this is worth it?
Yeah, I guess so. Sometimes you gotta live outside the box, man, and take a risk.
The problem I have is with that mentality, a lot of things can go haywire today.
Or not today. Of course today, yeah.
But these religions are based off of these principles in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, principles evolved. They evolved. Like you were talking about.
These principles evolved through modern
way back
society,
then.
practices, and morals.
As society evolves, so does religion.
But the problem is that the religion, we can say it evolved, but we still hold these books that have both the Old and the New Testament in every church and every sanctuary, every religious sanctuary, every orphanage, every hotel room. These books are everywhere. Well, most hotel rooms are supposed to.
Yeah, some people.
At least in America.
Some people just study one and not the other. Stuff like that, which is why that religion stays the same. It doesn't progress.
Maybe this was a bad example. Let's do the book of Exodus. Exodus 21.
Not tracking.
Exodus.
Is this Old Testament?
This is I'm not sure where Exodus is. While I Google the answer real quick, all I could say is that Exodus, that book, covers slavery. Not all of Exodus, specifically Exodus chapter 21 and forward. It pretty much has that quote where it says, if your servant, act against its master, then the servants were fellow Hebrews, by the way. Right. If your servant act out against his master, then his master may punish him. He may hit him with a stick, and it says not verbatim, but these are the key words in the scripture, where you can hit your slave with a stick, and so long as you don't kill your slave, then you have not sinned before your God. Like you've.
Like I said,
Discipline,
it
in other words.
evolves with society. I think it's just you can't necessarily beat someone with a stick nowadays. However, if you were in a workplace and you have a subordinate that does not want to answer, yes, you can not physically hit them, but of course get after them.
So here's the actual. I pulled it up. Here's the actual scripture. It says, Exodus 21, paragraph 2, line 2. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he is to serve you for 6 years, but in the 7th year he shall go free, without paying anything. If he comes alone, he is to go free alone. But if he has a wife when he comes, she is to go with him. If his master gives him a wife, and she bears him sons and daughters, the woman and her children shall belong to her master, and only the man shall go free. But if the servant declares, I love my master and my wife and children, and do not want to go free, then his master must take him before the judges. He shall take him to the door or the doorpost and pierce his ear with an awl. Then he will be his servant for life. It says, if a man sells his daughter as a servant, she is not to go free as male servants do. If she does not please the master who has selected her for himself, he must let her be redeemed. He has no right to sell her to foreigners because he has broken faith with her. If he selects her for his son, he must grant her the rights of a daughter. If he marries another woman, he must not deprive the first one of her food, clothing, and marital rights. If he does not provide her with these 3 things, she is to go free without any payment of money. And then, that was essentially talking about how you can purchase slaves and how you are to treat them. The one about, personal injuries to slaves, right? That's the scripture that I was trying to quote with the whole beating your slave with a stick. It says, anyone who strikes a person with a fatal blow is to be put to death. However, if it is not done intentionally, but God lets it happen, they are to flee to a place I will designate. But if anyone schemes and kills someone deliberately, that person is to be taken from my altar and put to death. This is Exodus 21, line 12. And of course, this one also talks about like disciplining, your sons, your daughters.
So, what they're talking about here is pretty much social customs and norms and traditions of that time and period. It's not necessarily giving you any commandment through God.
No, it's not.
Like the commandments of God are very plain and simple. They are mentioned throughout the multiple scriptures, and as best I can put it to you, is you follow the basic commandments that God gives you. That's it.
So, I would concur, but the only issue here is that it talks about one commandment, not specifically saying this is to align with the commandment, but it talks about, honor thy father and mother.
Oh yeah, of course.
It says anyone who attacks their father or mother is to be put to death. Anyone who kidnaps someone is to be put to death, whether the victim has been sold or is still in the kidnapper's possession. Anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. So this actually does link straight to that commandment. And it says that anyone who dares disrespect their parents in any way, shape, or form, aka cursing your parents, or attacking your parents, or fleeing from your parents even, you're to be put to death. So this does connect to the commandment.
Killing another human being is also, you're not supposed to do that. That's against the commandment. You're not supposed to kill another person.
So then the Bible's contradicting itself.
Oh, that Bible is.
Well, this is going to be found in any Bible that contains the book of Exodus.
Exodus, where does that come from? Is this part of the Old Testament? I'm assuming so, because
Exodus is...
I believe isn't it the Torah? It's part of the Torah as well. Jewish.
So the book of Exodus is... It talks about the liberation of the people of Israel from slavery. Okay, so you know what? You got me here. It is the Old Testament.
Yes.
So not everybody subscribes to this.
It is part of the scriptures. However, it's way...
It's ancient.
Pretty
it's outdated.
This is ancient stuff.
Okay, very well. So, like I said, man, it's all going to bounce back to the fact that a lot of these teachings in the Old and New Testament both, they're we can nitpick and conveniently choose to adopt whatever phrases and passages, are not offensive today in modern society, but they're going to have to come back with some better evidence than he said, she said, and it's written down in a book called the Bible.
I mean, the best way I could describe the Bible when these different scriptures is more or less as a manual of just not being a baseline through of principles and morals. Like, just following the simple commandments is going to keep you out of trouble, and that's the simplest way I can point someone to the right direction.
I concur. I mean, I'm not saying that everything out of the Bible is terrible. I'm just saying that the Bible is not a valid source of validation that religion and God are truly exist, because, shit, I could write the Bible. I could probably write it more morally conscious than how it's written today, even its current, released versions, like the new, I don't know what they, the titles are, but, that they have their little, the new King George Bible, or the new this Bible, whatever it is. I guess whatever volume we're on right now. I could have easily told someone not to molest someone's daughter, and not to kill their neighbor, and not to cheat on their wife with their neighbor's wife, and everyone knows that lying is inherently bad. I mean, everybody knows that killing somebody else, that's going to have a negative effect, whether you're raised in the tribe in Africa or raised in Virginia. We should all, I believe that it is innate in us to not act evil. The Bible claims we were born evil. That's why we have baptism and the teachings of the Bible that come, through life. You are supposed to slowly absorb all the information in the Bible and soak up.
Because there's too many different ideals, and in order to trying to sum them all up directly to the Bible was kind of rough to do, man.
Well, all I'll say this is that the Bible is pretty immoral.
What's all over the place? That's more or less what you're trying to say.
It's all over the place, but the conclusion here on the Bible is that it's immoral, and anybody could have written it less offensively than it is, because it is
You gotta think. Well, it's also a history, man. You gotta think about it. There's different practices, different ways, different teachings back then. It's been passed down generation and generation.
But it doesn't make it right, though.
It was right for that time period.
So, if we were to, be sent back in time, you would think that it's morally correct to own a slave?
At the time being, yeah.
So you're saying that you would want to own or not want to necessarily, but you wouldn't oppose the idea of owning a slave?
Okay, so you're born into a society where everyone has a slave. Chances are you're gonna think that having a slave is correct.
Well,
I'm not gonna know otherwise, because everyone's gonna think the same thing.
It's like right now how everything is, because I was right at the time, and right now what we're doing, how do we know what we're doing is right at the time? How do we know 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years from now people will be like, damn, I can't believe they should do that back in 2023?
Exactly.
It's not the norm, or how we idolize sort of certain things, or how values are certain ways. That's what we think is correct right now. You know what I mean?
Well, I can actually tell you and answer this question. You actually most likely wouldn't want to be a slave owner, and I'll tell you why. Do unto others what you would want done unto you. So if you think that you would be, comfortable being somebody's slave and taking any sort of punishment for any wrongdoing you do, whether that's physical abuse, verbal abuse, mental abuse, if you're not okay with that, chances are you wouldn't want that done to you. If you wouldn't want that done to you, chances are you wouldn't do that to somebody else. And that's how I'm basing my morality.
Well, that's the problem with in human beings. I mean, there's always going to be people that think otherwise, and people are going to abuse their power against other people.
I know, but those people in power don't want to be someone else's slave, do they?
Of course not, no.
So if we all went back in time, I know without a shadow of a doubt, none of us would want to be slaves right now.
No, I mean, we would be able to try our best to fix the world, but the world is not a perfect place.
I know we might get ganged up on, but
Yes.
just because everybody else is doing something that's totally totally wrong and totally inhumane. You know, like, you know, you don't have property rights, ownership over somebody's body. So I know that if I was sent back in time and offered the opportunity to be a slave master, I would definitely turn it down, you know, because I would de facto just use my logical brain.
So the energy you would give out is the way you would want to be treated.
Exactly, and I'd be like, no, release this man.
And that those
What's wrong with you?
Those words are actually in the scriptures.
So, with that in mind, slavery was still, you know, prevalent, and it was not frowned upon. It was frowned upon to kill a slave unjustly, as it just quoted in Exodus. But if the slave wanted to be, and again, the Bible also said, one of those passages I was just reading, it said that if the slave agrees, he can be your slave indefinitely. But we know today that such a thing exists called Stockholm Syndrome, where you start, you know, seeing your captors or your masters, if you will, in this case, in a different light. So, you know, like you said, science is only making religion more valid. And I would say the opposite. I would say that science is actually more and more going against religion and disproving its actual effectiveness and use in society. Because, like you said, I lost my train of thought, to be honest with you. But yeah, man, I just see it as an immoral document, and it covers a lot of immoral things. Like, selling your sons and daughters was fine back in the day.
Just think of it as picking up a history book, man. Take as much useful stuff as you can take and apply it to your life. Because, I mean, we see that our dark patterns in history, it leads us to do bad things and stuff like that. Just think of it as a manual, more or less.
People had slaves in the United States when it first started, and
just need to learn as much as we can about everything, man.
Like,
I can tell you.
People still do, and it's just called butlers.
Yeah, like, well, those are servants. Those guys are getting paid.
Yeah, but it's still some form of slavery,
I guess. But the guy agrees to it, and he can leave whenever he wants. So is it really still slavery? Because a slave can't leave without getting beaten and killed, probably. But a servant, someone that's you're paying them for a service, can leave and like cancel his contract with you, and he won't get killed or beaten.
Can we just stop refusing to pay taxes? No, we're not, because we're slaves to the system.
Well, I got one for that one, and I don't like to pay taxes any more than anybody else does.
Actually, bro, there is a thing called slavery. It's called the fucking Marine Corps.
So, with taxes, right? We pay taxes because we live in a country that, you know, feeds off of the taxes to fuel the whatever programs or economic, you know, economic. It's part of the economics of this country, man. Like, without taxes, the government wouldn't have anything wouldn't have the resources to get us whatever the fuck we need. And I'm not saying that there's no bullshit taxes. Like, for sure, there's taxes that are fucking pointless. But, I mean, we can either live here and get taxed, or we can live in Mexico and have to hide under a table every other day because, you know, the government's not doing jack shit, and the citizens are not allowed to own right. They're not afforded the right to bear arms, so those guys can't even protect their property against cartels.
So we're paying our privileges to own our firearms. To have our freedoms. We're paying for our freedoms.
No, not exactly. The way you pay for your freedom is when you get licenses, like welding licenses and other certificates to do a service. Okay. But that also proves your proficiency in the service, in the whatever skill it is you're paying for. But it seem to have misspoken. You don't pay for freedom. You pay for the right to carry out an act or service legally. So that's what I meant to say. But anyways, I think let's take a break from me arguing and debating why religion is immoral and why I don't subscribe to it. Do you have anything, Eddie? Or
let's move over to Mr.
Turns out that I still had COP in my nuts, and when I went to go grab them, my nuts feel fucking lukewarm now. So, who knew?
Nice. COP on your butts, yeah. On your nuts.
On your butts, whoa, bro. You gotta lubricate the gears, you know what I mean?
Alright, so the question I wanted to ask to Mr. Eddie, where do you stand on faith?
Number one is that you're just a guest, not a host. You don't have the right to ask questions.
Yes, I do. I paid for my freedoms.
I paid for my freedoms.
Paid my taxes, alright.
What was the question? I'm a taxpayer.
Where do you stand on faith?
As in what exactly? Like,
Faith
elaborate.
in spirituality, anything around those terms.
I mean, I'm not religious at all, man. I don't stand with anything.
Do you stand in? Do you believe in a higher power?
Not really.
No. You believe in ghosts?
I believe in ghosts
How do you believe in ghosts but you don't believe in a higher power?
because ghosts actually show some sort of signs that they're
How do you
there
know that ghosts aren't the higher power?
because they're spooky as hell.
Spooky. If they were the higher power, they wouldn't be spooky.
No, man. I just feel like there's actually like proof of ghosts. Like,
What are some examples of proof of ghosts that you can elaborate?
certain locations that had some horrific sort of sense of something happened. You know, like you'll start hearing screams or stuff like that, or they'll start fucking with you. You know what I mean?
So if you're in a place and it makes you feel bad, that makes it one of those supernatural places.
Yeah, more just because of all the negative vibes. Because have you ever felt like you enter a home, you enter a place, and you're like, damn, this place feels so damn negative.
Yeah, so if you were to enter a place and it makes you feel good, it makes you feel comfortable, warm, and protected, wouldn't that be considered a spiritual or holy place?
I mean, yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean because growing up, I mean, I grew up Catholic. I did the whole spiel of everything. Did I really learn anything? Not really. But growing up, I did see a lot of the whole saints, like Saint Jude, Saint Mary, of course, Jesus Christ, death, La Santísima Muerte. That one guy that's like Robin Hood. I saw all these saints and everything, but because of my father, not because he's religious, but because of the wrong reasons. All right, and then my mother also growing up, it was always like, oh, thank God this, thank God that, or this and that, or just like everybody always says, thank God. You say it, but you don't mean it. So, in a sense, I don't believe, but in a sense, I kind of do believe.
Well, the thing is that we say thank God because we can't say thank Allah because we weren't brought up to say that. If you were born saying Allah Akbar, every time you had something blissful or joyful in your life, you would most likely say Allah Akbar, like they do in the Middle East.
Yeah, I feel like it's just a norm thing to say.
You're indoctrinated into saying that.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody in your youthhood would have taught you thank Talos, that god from Skyrim, then you would probably be saying Talos be praised.
Yeah, it's just more of a like a greeting or a language thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like it goes down into our vocabulary. For example, filler words. Like I know we use a lot of those, so it just fits naturally there. Or the word like, we just fit naturally. I know a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, thank God I got this job, or they'll get mad. They're like, oh, only God knows, or like, oh, God doesn't love me. Like calm down, you know what I mean? But I don't know. I guess I don't really stand in anything, man. Like, yeah, I kind of believe, kind of don't believe. It's been a rough roller coaster. But I do believe that you shouldn't rush things.
No, I'm not trying to convince you there is or not.
Mm-hmm.
You did say that there's spooky things. So just because there's bad things, why can't there be good things as well?
What does spooky have to do with religion? Isn't that more like of a limbo?
There's a balance. There's bad and good. There's good vibes and there's bad vibes, man.
But how do I know those ghosts are good or bad? They're just there,
The vibes, bro.
The vibes.
The vibes, bro.
Raiders.
I think this kind of ties into Christian and other religious ideologies that if it's not a holy presence, then it may be demonic. It may be of a negative nature. So ghosts can be interpreted as demonic entities that are up to no good, to keep it short and simple. Now, the irony here, Eddie, is that you're expressing belief in ghosts, the supernatural, when all of religion and God Himself, if it were to be true,
it would consider supernatural.
Totally falls under the supernatural guidelines.
This is why I'm asking them.
So it's definitely counterintuitive to say that you believe in ghosts but not in God, because that's like playing tennis without the net. Like, you can't really pick and choose. It's like almost a double negative.
But it's technically my freedom to not freedom. It's my own opinion to believe what I want to believe. You know what I mean?
It's definitely you're free to believe whatever you want to believe, for sure. But you do also recognize the irony, right? Like,
oh yes, it is very ironic. That I do know, but I know nothing, little to none, to like nothing on religion. To be honest with you, yeah, I may have like the certs and everything, but that just like flew out the window.
It's like I said, with me, the reasons I don't believe is because I use logic above all my rules. All my fundamental rules on how I perceive reality is logic based. Rationality and irrationality, like I take those things into consideration. Not so much morality, because morality isn't the basis for our legal guidelines in this world.
So do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe there's proof of ghosts and supernatural stuff out there?
No. And also, I also do subscribe to the fact that there's good evidence and bad evidence for everything. What someone's going to say, this is my evidence, aka something in the freaking Bible, that's bad evidence, because even though that might be evidence, that's not good. And I don't accept bad evidence. Do I believe in ghosts? No. Do I think there's plenty of hoaxes? Yes. Do I think there's the possibility that something supernatural could happen? I'm optimistic towards it, but I don't believe that it has in any way, shape, or form presented itself to me or anyone else I know. Well, sorry, that was not what I meant to say. What I mean to say is that until I get the evidence to make a logical, rational, scientifically verifiable or falsifiable claim, then nothing supernaturally stated to me can be validated, because like I said, this is what I would need, and this is what any scientist would need to be able to go ahead and confirm the existence of something. So that's what I have to say about how you perceive ghosts, Eddie, is that if a scientist can't recreate, if it cannot be recreated, verified, falsified in a scientific mindset, in a setting, then we can't really prove that it's real, can we?
I mean, that is facts. I'm technically just a mule that likes to carry things. That's why I'm useless.
But ignoring whatever that was supposed to mean.
Okay, man.
I mean, like, useless. No, I mean, like, useless in the fact of religion, man. Like, I am completely useless. You can tell me that God was a fish and, Jesus was a sausage, and I'll be like, damn, that's fucking amazing.
I think we could bring this conversation to a better point. Freddie, what is your stance on alien life forms or the possibility of other intelligent life besides our own in this universe? Are you open to the idea that could be a thing?
Yes, definitely.
And would you think that it looks like us? Would you think that it's entirely, misshapen and weird?
Yes, I strongly believe that it would look like us, yeah.
That it would look human?
Yeah.
And would it look exactly like us, or would it be like a slight color change of skin?
Perhaps different shades, man.
Like green, or?
I don't know. I can't give you a specific color. I would love for them to be green and glow in the dark, but
would you be open to that possibility, though?
Oh yeah, definitely. Why not? What's so special about us being here on Earth?
Well, we're God's creation,
and God created everything. So
that's true.
He may have created another planet with other us in there.
But it doesn't mention it in the Bible anywhere.
I can't really get too deep into it because I have not read specifically those scriptures. But
just download a Bible online.
There are stuff.
Just download the Bible online and Control F the word alien, extraterrestrial,
They're not gonna be. They don't use
that's what I'm saying.
Long language in the.
But we have.
I'm telling you, there is stuff, man. I'll get back to you on that for sure.
I look forward to it. Well, that's just my thing. Like, there are so many unanswered things in the world around us that you would think that everything should be able to more or less be explained, and not by an umbrella term. Like, for example, if aliens landed on Earth tomorrow, would you say that? Like, what do you think would happen?
If aliens landed here on Earth tomorrow, I don't care, man. I'm gonna be doing my everyday routine, just take care of the family and work out and come to work on Saturday.
You wouldn't really be curious about them?
Well, who am I to be ambassador of Earth? Be like, aliens, come to me, I'll show you around.
No, not necessarily that, but would you be curious?
Curious?
Would you want to know what they're up to?
Sure, why not? I mean,
because I would.
I guess so.
I mean.
What am I going to do? Am I going to stop their whole life's purpose journey that they came here all the way to Earth, and just because Mr. Sandoval wants to find out what their intent is?
Well, let me ask you this then. Who do you think should be the one to be the Earth's ambassador to them?
That'd be on them, whoever they make initial contact with. that is their ambassador.
So what if they make initial contact with a cow?
With a cow, well, they're gonna. I don't know. Yeah, that cow is gonna a lucky cow, and that sucks for them.
Right. I don't know, man. I feel like it's risky. Could you imagine getting some form of Islamic extremist make contact with them, or some form? And I'm not Islamophobic, by the way. Or
Say that again.
he said a dark joke. But anyways,
That's bad.
could you imagine? I don't know. Like I picture myself in a world where the aliens that make contact with us, they like land in Brazil and they're immediately being held at gunpoint by a guy on a motorcycle.
Well, man, they chose. I mean,
Well, they didn't know what they were
think
getting
about
themselves
it.
into.
When certain specific militaries, before they make initial contact, before they go in somewhere, they're going to have to do their proper recon. They will know where they're going, where and when they're going to show up, and to who they're going to present themselves.
What would your opinion be if these beings were able to like appear and disappear in like midair?
Kind of like spirits.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what would your opinion be?
they're probably already here, man. My
You-
opinion on that is that good on them. If they're not ready to show themselves, so don't let them show themselves.
Would you believe them if they proclaim themselves to be gods?
Yeah, well, an advanced civilization or something like that.
But like gods,
They call
not in the.
themselves. They call themselves gods. I mean, yeah, good in everyone. Anything can. I can call myself a god. You
But
can
would
call
you-
yourself a god.
Would you believe them though?
No,
Okay. Well, why not though?
because there's specific key points that characteristics that they are to meet in order to be considered the god.
Like what? Could you like name like one or two?
One, there wouldn't be multiple of them. It would just be. I don't know, man. Can't really give you much right now. Can't really think specific key points right now.
Got it. Do you think that if aliens showed up on Earth and started massacring humanity, because they definitely would have the capability to do so, would you think that God had willed that to happen, or no?
What if it was their god? What if it was their god?
Well, they have the wrong one, man. They have the wrong one.
That's true.
If an alien species would come over here, would they be considered worshiping the wrong god?
If their ideals are to hurt others and not following the specific commandments that our God or the God I believe in, of course they have the wrong one, man, because they'd be doing the bad things, they'd be doing wrong and causing.
So would
Bad
would
things
other
around
would
the
other
people.
people in other countries be wrong?
Do they hurt people?
Yes, some
and
of them
bad
do.
things? Well, there you go. There goes your answer, right?
Other religious beliefs hold they hold the belief that anyone that does not worship or follow their God is not worthy of living in the same world as them, and therefore they are to be labeled infidels.
Well,
And,
there you go. That says more than enough about that religion.
That's what they believe, man. Some people are so like hard set on it that they're willing to die for this, and you know, if
If you're supposed to treat others in the same way you want to be treated, how are you going to end up doing these things?
That was a mysterious way of forming God.
Yeah, man. That's what happens when you don't believe.
holy intervention right here.
You got a spirit just knock the ice out of you.
But
I'll make her look at the Holy Ghost. I'll make her know God.
I'll make it believe.
let's not push any further. Let's just conclude with the possibility that there may be alien life
Aliens, yeah. Aliens.
And man, I got a really great one for the next podcast. Everybody stay tuned because it's going to be lit sauce. This concludes episode 2.5.
Nice.
What the